Let's talk about mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness describes the state of mind which you want to achieve. Mindfulness means to guide your attention purposefully on the present moment without judgment. The most difficult part of this is being able to just experience whatever you focus on without judging its personal meaning. Experiencing negative thoughts or painful bodily sensations without giving in to the automatic negative valuation is something which needs a lot of practice. This is where meditation comes in. Meditation describes a wide variety of practices which will bring you in a mindful state of mind. The final goal would be to bring more mindfulness to every aspect of life. But in meditation, you purposefully take your time to practice this state of mind. Why you want to be more mindful will be discussed in my other videos. I first started to meditate 4.5 years ago, just before lockdown. What drove me back then were two things. First, my body showed clear signs of being unsatisfied with how I was treating her at the time, and I wanted to turn my life around to a more healthy and sustainable way of living. Second, I wanted to exploit the spiritual qualities of this practice because I was desperately hunting for intense spiritual experiences back then. So I started not knowing what meditation actually was. I would lie down listening to meditative sounds on YouTube and would just do nothing. I mistook falling asleep as being especially deep into the meditation, but soon developed some doubts about if what I was doing was actually right. So I half-heartedly did some research, but it wasn't until I had the topic of mindfulness in my studies that I would get a clear view of what it was. It can give your mind a break from following the constant stream of thought and will ground you in the present moment. As said, this is something which you will have to practice before mastering. The goal should always be to have a more mindful way of walking this earth, but you can also use it acutely when needed in the form of meditation. There are a lot of guides for any type of meditation out there. I would recommend to watch the meditation miniseries by Headspace on Netflix to start with. If you don't have a Netflix subscription, you might just start with any sort of body scan exercise which you can find on YouTube. I might be making my own guides in the future, which will then be linked in the description. Getting started can be even easier than having to listen to some guide. Everything you need for meditation you already have given inside you. If listening to guides isn't for you, you might just start by focusing on your breath. I would recommend to set a timer to just 5 minutes. The position you're in doesn't really matter, except that I would recommend to find a position which is comfortable for starting out. You might be sitting on a chair or lying in bed, or maybe even sitting cross-legged, which I personally prefer due to the way your body is centered in this position. But you might want to practice this position beforehand and be stretchable enough for it not to be uncomfortable. Until then, lying down is just as fine, especially in the beginning, and should be comfortable for most people. Sitting is also a good option if you are anywhere where you don't have the opportunity to lie down, for example at work or in public transport. For 5 minutes, I want you to just focus on your breathing. See where you can sense any sensation related to your breath and just observe them. When just getting started, thoughts will come up and you might struggle keeping your attention. This is a good way of showing how messed up your attention might be. If you find yourself following the stream of thought, just try to focus back on the breathing motion. I personally was never a fan of this kind of entry-level attention training. If you feel like you could be able to focus for a longer period of time, you might want to try to just let your attention flow freely through any bodily sensation which might come up. This is even more prone to be disrupted by your thoughts because you have no fixed point of attention. You want to come to the point where even your thoughts itself can be objects of observation without them influencing you. You might want to try to picture your thoughts as something which just pops up from time to time but also disappears again. You can start by visualizing the stream of thought in some way. It might be the flow of a river filled with your thoughts, or as clouds passing by, or even popping bubbles, whatever you like to imagine. Do this until even this picture is able to disappear with your thoughts. When you practice enough, you might be able to achieve a point where there are no thoughts popping up anymore and you can clearly experience whatever sensation comes to your attention without thinking about it, which I believe to be this mindful state of mind. I have made the experience that when you actively observe thoughts with the intention not to follow them, just viewing them as an object of interest without caring about their content, they will become less persuasive and disappear quickly. You want to take 5 minutes every day to practice this. It is only 5 minutes and will bring you so far. I personally am at the point where I try to meditate for up to 10 minutes a day. I am not able to reach this mindful state of mind where there are no thoughts popping up anymore every time, and when I do, I usually only get there after a while. Patience is key. I usually sit down and start by taking a few deep breaths until I feel like it is time to let it go on its own. Then I just try to focus on everything that comes up, starting with bodily sensations. I had some success with doing an unguided body scan first and then letting my attention flow free. On some days, I am not able to stop myself from following my thoughts and I usually give up after a while. But I would recommend to always try to take all the time you gave yourself for it, because it just takes a few seconds of staying in the right state of mind to get over your thoughts and into the state of mindfulness. I usually try to meditate in the morning before starting any high concentration work, but I feel like I have a more mindful experience when doing it later in the day. I would just recommend to take 5 minutes daily and try out different positions or times and see what works best for you.